Hi and welcome back to Grassroots Crypto, where I like to teach people about crypto. And in this video, I'll be doing a Jan to mid-Feb update, just to give a bit of an update on what's been happening over the last couple of weeks. If you want to catch up, you can see my previous update videos here as well. So I'm going to be looking back what's happened really since the start of the year, since my last video, as well as THORFi. That's probably going to take most of the video. Then we're going to be looking forward, what's on the horizon outside of THORFi. Lots to get into, so let's get started. So first, let's have a look at the RUNE burn stats, because everyone loves that. So we can see here, this amount of RUNE at 276,000 RUNE has been burnt. Now, if we look at this over the last 7 days, the actual burn rate should be declining, not because of volume, but because the emission curve was changed. We'll talk about it more in later on in the video, but that'll start to reduce how much system income is there because the block rewards are reduced. But either way, you can see how much RUNE has been burnt. Base went live and is running, so we can have a look at a particular article here, which is pretty cool. And Base has been on for quite a while now. It's on a fair bit of volume. You can check out all the details on THORChain.net. But if you want to read more about it, you can have a look at this article. So that's pretty good to get Base, long time coming. As well as Outbound delay was reduced. So I'll pop a graphic up that shows more details. But essentially it went down from 60 minutes to 45 minutes, the maximum wait time for an outbound delay. And some of the parameters, because there's 4 parameters within the outbound delay, have been tweaked to make it a bit more, you could say, user friendly. In other words, you're going to get your outbound a bit quicker. And you can see more details about the outbound delay and Swapper Cloud and how they work together in this video here. Version 3.2.0 was released. That was like last week or something like that. So I picked out a couple. This was the release. Picked out a couple of main ones that have occurred. So the first one was the admin Mimir. The ability for one person to change Mimir setting has been removed, and it's gone and it's implemented. There's a new parameter introduced into the swap quote. That's the liquidity tolerance BPS for, like, it really helps with like small swaps, and I think this was helping a lot of the trust wallet to ensure that they're not going to have large amounts of slip. So you can have basically a slip level, a better slip level that takes into consideration all of the things that are going to happen within the swap. So it allows interfaces to give users a better user experience. And then the last one was this compatibility one, having the message send inside of all 4 message bank types. So if you're a Cosmos person, you would understand that, and that's really helpful. So spaces and videos. There's been quite a few spaces if you want to catch up, particularly these ones here, to get all of the details. As well as some videos here from THORChain University. Lush has been doing quite a few. He's got some update ones, some general update ones, as well as a bit of how-to, so that's pretty cool. And I did a video on RUGI Trade, getting into all the details, a lot of details on how RUGI Trade is going to be working with THORChain and kind of basically an order book with the pools. So you can check out that video here. So that's looking back. Let's have a look what's happening with THORFi. There's a lot to unpack with THORFi, and I've written a bit of an article here just to help, I guess, move through what happened. And I'm just going to refer to this. As I said, there's a lot to unpack. So THORFi was introduced a couple of years ago with both savers and lending. And essentially, both savers and lending relied on the assumption that RUNE would outperform, or at least not significantly underperform, the major assets it was paired with, like Bitcoin and Ethereum and stuff like that. So savers introduced leverage onto the pool, which is like a double-edged sword. It amplifies the positive as well as the negative. So if the pool grows, that's great, and they will get more returns than they normally would because it's amplified. However, if there's impermanent loss and the pool shrunk, then obviously their losses would be amplified as well. And impermanent loss is a slippery slope. So if we see here, a little bit of price change either side is fine. However, on the upside, you can see it has like marginal impacts on the value. Even if it's like 5 times, you're having 25%. However, on the downside, it's quite a slippery slope. So once you're getting like 25%, you're losing more than half of the position here. So it's once it starts to get down to here, it's quite devastating within a liquidity pool. And then there was lending, and that would involve burning Rune to create loans, which is very good to reduce the supply, as well as then minting the Rune that was burnt in order to close them. But the ratio was snapshotted on the open and the close, and the idea was that more Rune would be burnt than minted when they're open and closed in the whole life cycle. There was a circuit breaker to protect this, to cap the amount of minting to protect the max supply. However, I guess you could say that bet was there's no other protections outside of that except for the circuit breaker. Whilst we never got anywhere near to that, I guess this closing had an impact in the end. So that's savers and lending. So what led to this particular THORFi unwind? So this is my opinion. I would say as the altcoins, which includes Rune, began to disconnect from Bitcoin, because Bitcoin's run and things like Ethereum and all the other altcoins kind of haven't, some concerns about THORFi grew, because obviously having some impermanent loss within the Bitcoin pool, and that's the largest pool, that the most where savers and lending occurs. So there's a widespread debate about what to do and start protecting the Rune's price, because whilst in a way to the network, the Rune price isn't important, it is important it needs to have a good solid price that's in some way paired with the assets that it's paired with in order to allow swapping. So there's a lot of discussion. However, the negative discussions on platforms like Twitter and Discord started to fuel the FUD, and the FUD led to further price disconnection until it became a self-fulfilling prophecy. So everyone's just saying, there's problems with THORChain, people sell, and then that would just like build on the same thing. So despite THORChain continuing to operate as intended, doing large swaps during this time period, Rune's price declined more, was driven, I reckon, by a panic sell-off and speculation until it really just started to plummet. I think like from $4 down to like $2 until where the pause was happened. I've got a bit of a timeline of events here. I guess this is my opinion here, but these are some facts. So we had the THORFi pause. I think that was when Rune's about $4 or something like that. And then that's when JP used an admin key to do this. That really did put a lot of, you could say, gasoline on the fire, so to speak, with regards to, is there a problem with THORChain? Is there a problem with Rune and what needs to be done and all that type of stuff? So then a few days later, or I guess a couple of weeks later, then when it was really, you could say, I don't want to say getting out of control, but there was a lot of bad sentiment causing selling, then that's when the THORFi or nodes are voted to pause THORFi, and that would mean that you couldn't withdraw your savings, you couldn't add savings, and then you also couldn't withdraw from loans or close loans and repay. At the time of the pause, this was the outstanding liability, and you can go to this website and there's a report that gives you all the specific details. So let's explain it in a bit more detail and with some visuals here so we can get a bit of an understanding. At the time of the pause, the synth utilization was around 60%. Now, don't quote me on this. I'm going to give some overall details. They're not going to be 100% specific. So this is okay, but the more that there's impermanent loss, the more that the synth utilization will start to increase. And that's because the synth collateral needs to be protected. So that means the liquidity providers are starting to get squeezed, as in they're losing money. That essentially this increasing is caused due to impermanent loss, and then the liquidity is taken away from liquidity providers and given to the synths in order to protect their collateral, because their principal is insured within the pool. So then after the pause, and I mean like when Rune went from $4 down to like $1, the BTC pool was over 90%. I think it was about 94 or stuff like that. And then that means that the synths here provided the majority of the liquidity for the pool. But this is not good, because if the synth withdraw, then you've only got a very shallow pool. This is what's remained. Then half of this is in Rune, so half of that could potentially be sold off, which would reduce the Rune price even more, e.g. cause more impermanent loss, which means this would shrink even further. And if you allow loans to close, then obviously that mints rune, that increases the rune supply, that reduces the price, that increases permanent loss on the pool, which reduces this further. So whilst THORFi was designed to be separate from the network with regards to the synth utilization cap and all that type of stuff, as well as the circuit breaker to ensure too much rune wasn't going to be created, the spiraling price with all the you could say negative sentiment made the price of rune go down so much that the amount of liquidity available for swaps outside of the synths here would have mean that there would have been really not enough to support the network, to support the ongoing operations of THORChain. So therefore, this synth utilization or the synth liquidity is required to be there to enable the swaps, to enable the large swaps that go through THORChain, and that's what drives all the revenue. I hope that makes sense, and why the synths needed to be, or the savers needed to be stopped, as well as lending to protect the liquidity here. And understand that this liquidity provider liquidity is not like something simple. It's made up of POL, Rune Vault, and normal LPs as well. So what's happened since the pause? Well, the synth yield has been redirected. So if I go back to my little chart here, normally this particular synth collateral would earn yield and get paid back to the savers. All of that is being directed now to the liquidity providers. So this is essentially then principal only, non-yield bearing. Then there was like eight proposals that was created, independent proposals on how to fix this, on how to deal with this particular, these outstanding liabilities. And one was chosen, that was proposal 6, done from Alex. Got some links here, you can have a look at it. The TLDR is convert all the debt to TYC, so this is new token that'll be issued 1-to-1 to the people that have the outstanding liabilities, and it's gonna be a little more than 200 actually, it's whatever the actual outstanding liability amount is. Then there'll be a revenue sharing where TCY holders get 10% of the network's revenue in perpetuity and distributed daily in Rune. So there's going to be this like TCY and Rune pool that's going to be initially seeded as well from the treasury, and then that 10% is going to go into that pool. Then from once that happens, that deals with the liability, then there's going to be the elimination of THORFi products, all the savers lending and all that type of stuff will essentially be removed from the code, and just brings THORChain back to the simple LPing/swapping that it used to be. The implementation details have been published on GitLab with an amendment. This goes over essentially what is here. The exception would be the amendment. I guess you could say the first proposal talked about locking the synth units, and what that would mean is essentially if it's like this, if you lock the synth units, then the synth utilization wouldn't change. This would actually be locked in with regards to utilization in simple terms. So then the argument would be that doesn't favor liquidity providers, because it doesn't allow the liquidity providers utilization to really go back to the way it was. You can't really get the benefit of the unwind of the impermanent loss, because impermanent loss is a loss that's not yet permanent. So for the people that do stay in the pool, if you lock the synth units, you're essentially making that loss permanent. However, if you keep them unlocked and the price of Rune recovers because there's more confidence this stuff is dealt with and people feel more comfortable coming in, then the rising Rune price will essentially allow the pool, the returns, the value, whatever you want to call it, to move back up this line. Because it went down this line, you can essentially move back up this line. So that's what that amendment does. It also goes into trying to account for the current liquidity providers, so they can get the benefits. The people that have stayed can get the benefits of essentially walking back and moving up this, instead of new liquidity providers coming in and sharing in that benefit. So they want to have separate accounting between the incumbent or the current liquidity providers or the dual LPs, as well as people that enter new. So they're, you haven't got profit-seeking people just jumping in and getting the benefit of on this unwind, which is taken away from the people that stayed in the pool. Okay, so that's proposal 6 here, and that's what it means. Within that, there was a recommendation to change the emission curve. And then the emission curve controls the amount of block rewards that are emitted from the reserve into each block that are paid out to like liquidity providers as well as node operators, part of the system income. So the nodes voted to increase that from 8 to 10, which essentially takes it from about, this is what I heard off a podcast today, the 25,000 RUNE a day to about 2 RUNE a day, or about 750 a year. That's what I understand it, because that's what's in proposal 6. So that means then the amount of RUNE that's entering, on a daily basis is significantly cut. So therefore that should reduce the sell pressure of RUNE, and then allow the price to recover, which essentially helps enable this process, this walking back up the process, which is why the amendment is so important, to protect the liquidity providers that have been most impacted, and not distributing that amongst new liquidity providers that are just trying to get a benefit. So to support the amendment proposal, there's a couple of MRs that are already in place. So first, actually there's this issue that has a picture. So I'll leave with a link in the description below that has that picture. You can go through this in more detail. There's the actual add TYC. This is the merge request. This is just under development. As you can see, it's pretty new. And then there's another one here to add MERS to inhibit LP deposits. So this is to stop liquidity providers, or the actual functionality to stop new liquidity providers coming in and doing what I talked about before. So that's THORFi. That's what happened and what's due to happen next. We're going to wait till all the code's in, and then I don't know if that's going to go on the ADR or nodes are just going to vote on the release when it's ready. We'll just have to wait and see how that pans out. Going back to my article here, so as I said here, developers are working on it. Nodes will then vote and adopt it in a new release, and then users will be able to claim their token, and this is via a memo, once it all goes live and all the code's in place. There would be incentives for people to claim that and put that into the pool, because the quicker you're in that pool, the more of the rewards you're going to get. You could say the 10% system income. So I wouldn't be sluggish on this, because you're essentially going to be missing out on yield if you don't get that token and put it into the pool. I've got a whole bunch of references here that you can check out in your own time. So looking forward, EDDSA support. This is required for Solana. Everyone wants Solana. Yep, it's coming. Having a look at the next release, we have EDDSA here, the actual code for it. And you can see that Pluto's been working on this, getting it in, committing within the last day. So it's coming. I have no idea when. We'll just have to wait and see till this is approved. And then when this particular release is adopted, I would expect that Solana will then be added after, basically this change goes in and we know it's working well. Then there's the groundwork for the app layer. So there's 3 merge requests that need to go in here. So this is the switch to enable the token generation event, or the launch of the RUGI, to move that to native. That's happening. That was due for the last release, but it got bumped. It hasn't been merged yet, so we do need these to be merged for them to know that they're solid. There's also the quasi-wasm and execute memo, which is for calling smart contracts. And this particular one is actually required to do what is talked about in here. Then, let's go back to the release. We have single coin. So this is sending multiple coins within a message sent within THORChain. So that's just more like groundwork enabling stuff. Then we have the implementation of proposal 6, which we talked about. No idea when that's going to happen. I just know that it's in process. And then THORChain is back to really business as usual. I picked this up a couple of hours ago. It's a 41 Bitcoin swap to USDC. Now that the liquidity is, locked, set in the pool, there's sufficient depth, THORChain can, you can use THORChain as normal, and it's going back to doing large swaps, generating large amount of fees, and just back to the way it was. So that's an update. Hopefully it wasn't too much. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. If you've got any questions, queries, doubtful points, let me know. And thanks for watching. Until next time,